Yeah, right, Robbie.
Welcome everyone to the virtual council meeting hosted by Bassett Law District Council. Given the current challenging situation we all face following the outbreak of COVID-19, the law has been changed to allow councils to host virtual meetings rather than requiring councillors to be present in the committee chamber. We're making a decision. This keeps everyone safe by maintaining a social distancing and allows business to be conducted in an appropriate manner. It's very important that all councillors can hear each other, and so I will invite members in alphabetical order to introduce themselves, and in so doing a test via broadband connection. Councillor Jay Anderson.
Good evening, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor R. Booth. Councillor R. Booth. Councillor J. Barker.
Present, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Hand. Sorry, who was that? I'll read that again. Frank.
You're not very clear.
Yeah.
Can't hear it.
No, not very clear.
Can't hear me very well.
No.
No.
Right, the mic's not very good.
Too many microphones on.
We'll get that corrected.
Unplug it, mate.
Just have a minute while we get started.
You get mine?
Is that any clearer? Can you hear me?
It sounds like you're buffering.
No, it's the mic that's on the wall, unfortunately. There's not a lot we can do with it. So, but if you are having real problems, we'll try it. We'll divert the meeting to another room. So bear with it. Let us know if you're really struggling to hear, and we'll look at going into another room. So, Councillor H. Brand.
Present, Chair. Good evening.
Just one moment. We better pass that there. We're just making a move.
Keep social distancing. Keep apart. 2 meters.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, is that better?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. So we'll start roll call again. Sorry to the councillors that have already answered, but Councillor J. Anderson.
Present, Chair. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. Councillor R. Booth. Councillor J. Barker.
Present, Chair. Sorry about that.
No problem. Councillor H. Brand.
Present, Chair. Good evening.
Thank you. Councillor D. Brett. Councillor R. Carrington Wild.
Present, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Challoner.
Present, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor M. Charles.
Present, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor G. Clarkson.
Present. Good evening, Chair.
Councillor A. Coulthard.
Evening, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Duke.
Present, Chair, thank you.
Councillor Entwistle.
Present, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor T. Eaton.
Present Chair, thank you.
Councillor J. Evans.
Present Chair.
Thank you. Councillor S. Fielding.
Present Chair.
Thank you. Councillor G. Freeman.
Chair, sorry to interrupt, but I believe Councillor Freeman's apologies have gone in.
They have, Chair, and they will be introduced in the apologies section. Thank you.
No problem. Councillor Kevin Greaves.
Here, Chair.
Councillor Simon Greaves.
Here, Chair.
Councillor J. Lee.
Present Chair.
Councillor J. Naish.
Present, Chair.
Councillor P. Nichols. Councillor J. Ogle. Councillor G. Oxford.
Present, thank you.
Councillor D. Tidwell.
Good evening, Chair.
And Councillor J. Cleveland.
Present Chair.
Councillor J. Potts.
Present, Chair.
Councillor D. Presley.
Present, Chair.
Councillor M. Quigley.
Present Chair.
Councillor A. Rhodes.
Present, Chair.
Councillor H. Richards. Councillor M. Richardson.
Present, Chair.
Councillor N. Sanders.
Good evening, Chair.
Councillor J. Tiger.
Present Chair. Thank you.
Councillor B. Schuler.
Present Chair.
Councillor S. Buckle. Councillor S. Shaw.
Yes, present Chair.
Thank you. Councillor J. Shepherd.
Present, Chair.
Councillor B. Softlet.
Present Chair, good evening.
Good evening. Councillor H. Tamlin Saville.
Present Chair, good evening.
Councillor C. Tyndall.
Present Chair.
Thank you. Councillor R. Tomlinson.
We have apologies for Councillor Tomlinson, Chair.
Councillor C. True.
Present Chair. Good evening.
Good evening. Councillor M. Watson.
Present Chair, good evening.
Good evening. And Councillor J. White.
Present Chair. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. Right, I'll now introduce members and officers. Mr. M. Taylor.
Good evening, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. D. Armature.
Good evening, Chair.
Mr. D. Ill.
Good evening, Chair.
Good evening. Miss L. Dorr.
Good evening, Chair.
And Mr. J. Lavender.
Present, Chair.
Thank you very much. And also Mr. Steve Wormold. I've already said Steve.
Now, good evening, Chair.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I thought I'd said it in this one. If during the meeting we lose connection and the meeting becomes inquorate or the live streaming for public viewing fails, I shall adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes to allow connection to be re-established. Given this is a virtual meeting, there is no corporate responsibility to detail a fire procedure, as we ordinarily would. However, I would like to highlight that this committee is being live streamed on social media. So all participants, please be aware of your actions and take appropriate safety precautions from your place of live streaming. Can I please switch off their microphones when speaking? If a member wishes to speak on an item, please indicate in the chat facility. This will be monitored and you will find that in the top right-hand corner of your screen. Agenda item number 1 is apologies. Can the committee clerk please give apologies?
Yes, Chair, I can do that for you. We have apologies from Councillor Freeman, Councillor Shirley Izzard, Councillor Keith Izzard, Councillor Gwyneth Jones and Councillor Bill Tomlinson. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 2 is to receive declarations of interest by members and officers. Are there any declarations of interest by members? Are there any declarations of interest by officers?
Yes, Chair, I need to declare a pecuniary interest in agenda item 11A, which is the monitoring officer designation. So I'll leave the meeting for that item.
Thank you, Mr. Ormo. Agenda item number 3 is minutes on pages 5 to 10 in your agenda. There is one step to approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 18th of June 2020. Does anyone wish to vote against these? They're carried then, thank you. Agenda item number 4 is communications. First of all, I'd like to say good evening to everyone and thank you in advance for the way we are conducting this meeting. As always, I ask that we show respect to each other, as I know we all have Bassett Law's interest at the heart of what we all do. I had the great pleasure of opening the new wing at Westwood Care Home, and then I was invited to remain and enjoy a barbecue and entertainment. The residents I met at a social distance were very happy with the home and the overall experience that is this great care home has to offer. I also had the great pleasure representing Bassett Law on VJ Day in Nottingham. This is a duty that I was honoured to attend. I and the council have the deepest respect for our fallen soldiers, veterans, and also our serving personnel. I was also honoured to attend the ceremony in Retford for their VJ Day. The British Legion did a sterling tribute. It was very well organised, and again, I thank all our serving personnel, past and present. Thank you. I now pass you over to the Chief Executive for any Chief Executive communication.
Thank you, Chair. Since the environmental wardens started patrolling the district at the beginning of August, over 692 fines have been handed out for various offences such as litter dropping and cigarette butts, and a £1,600 fixed penalty notices have also been issued for dog pounding. In terms of the COVID pandemic, the council's support and economic development officers have visited 250 different retail businesses offering important advice, while since April, the council's environmental health investigative complaint and advisory workload has quadrupled, 604 inquiries dealt with. Perhaps most significantly, though, the council has processed and paid £26.1 million in government funding grants to a total of 2,304 Bassett Law businesses, and this has been made up of small business grants to 1,714 businesses with 17.1 million. to the retail, hospitality and leisure industries. £7.7 million has been distributed to a total of 442 businesses. And in terms of discretionary grant, 1.17 million has been distributed to 148 businesses. It just underlines, Chair, the amount of work and support that the council have put into the district and the businesses and individuals in it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Did everybody manage to hear most of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I'll try. We'll send you a copy out, David. I would like to hand over to the leader to update members on developments. Councillor Greaves.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to recap in relation to all matters relating to COVID-19. The authority, working with others, has undertaken a huge amount of work in order to support the local community and the local business community. And it is very clear that the need for that work will continue. The announcements for further funding today are certainly welcome. We have previously written to the government asking for more targeted support for hospitality, leisure and tourism sectors. And we recognise the need for more specific targeted support for small businesses in Bassett Law. This was back in June, and I sincerely hope that in light of the measures that have been announced, that there will be an ongoing round of funding that will be able to support people during these very difficult times. Chair, what I would also like to just mention is that whilst dealing with all matters related to COVID and supporting the community, the authority continues to do its work, and that does mean that we've had to change the way in which we operate as a council to deliver services in some cases. And I think it's as a great example of how to innovate. The literary festival recently was a great bonus, and I think the way in which they've been able to adapt and engage with the community across North Nottinghamshire is fantastic. So I'd like to make a reference and thanks to them and everyone who helped deliver that event.
Can I just stop there, Mr. Greaves? There seems to be a problem. You're stopping and going. Is it your connection? You seem to have.
Sorry, Chair. It appears my connection. I'm sorry, Chair. My connection went down.
It's still happening, Councillor Greaves.
Chair, I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, that's
Yes, it
better.
does.
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah, that's better, Councillor Greaves. If you could carry on. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. It may be a connection problem, I'm afraid. Thank you, Chair. So certainly the way in which events and activity has been able to move online has certainly been fantastic. And I'd also like to make a reference to the recent market that took place at Harworth and Burcoats, using the newly installed public open space there. I hope this is a good indication for the future, and it will be possible to utilise that space. I know that the market was very welcomed, and I've got no doubt that there'll be further markets as we go forward, working with the town council, and I think it's a great indication for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 5 is questions by the public. There are no questions from members of the public. Agenda item number 6 is questions by members. One question has been received from a member. I call upon Councillor Brand to read her question on behalf of the independent group.
Thank you, Chair. Could the leader update members on what is happening regarding local government reorganisation in Nottinghamshire and the county's desire to move to a single county-based unitary authority? What are the key stages in the process, and what are your views on local government reorganisation and the future of local government in Bassetlaw? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Brand. I call upon the leader, Councillor Greaves, to respond.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, excuse me if I don't use my video, but I certainly feel that if we've got decent audio quality, that will probably. Chair, first of all, thank you for the question. It is a very timely question. So in terms of what is happening within Nottinghamshire and the county's desire to move to a single county-based unitary, what I can say is this. Over the course of the summer period, whilst I have to say there was a huge amount of work being undertaken to tackle the COVID crisis, a number of county councils, and this includes Nottinghamshire, revisiting their previous action to pursue reorganisation within their local government boundaries. And this included engaging directly with government and directly with ministers. The county council, I understand, has identified a timeline by which it wishes to pursue ambitions. The key timelines have included the recent policy committee meeting, in which agreement was reached, albeit it was carried but not unanimously, to basically write to government and ask that the government invite the county council to submit a formal bid for reorganisation. At this point, I don't believe that Nottinghamshire has necessarily declared that it wishes to be a single county unitary, but I've got no doubt that that's its real ambition. The timelines that I understand were agreed involve basically the exchange of letters, the submission of a formal bid, a period and a number of weeks through which alternate bids can be received, and there's a degree of engagement, although it's not clear at what level. And then there's a period for the government to make a determination on how to proceed. I've got no doubt that civil service and ministers would be involved in any assessment process. From there, I understand that the county council's objectives have included persuading the government to suspend or call off the scheduled elections in May next year. These timelines are very tight and they are susceptible to events. And that is what I believe is currently rolling out right now. In terms of key stages, we're in the midst of stage one. I'm not clear whether a letter has yet been received or what the contents of that letter would actually be. And so, in essence, I, along with everyone else, really awaits which direction things are to take next. There's no doubt at all that the backdrop to this process and this is being played out up and down the country, is the contents of the much anticipated white paper that focuses on devolution and has been hailed as an opportunity to level up the country. I understand that this white paper has been delayed. I understand that also a change at ministerial level has had an impact upon this process. The County Council Network have written to government asking that this process be expedited. It's not clear to me what the government's response will be. In terms of my views and the future of local government in Bassetlaw, there's no doubt that there's been a previously stated government position that they wish to see the two-tier structures and two-tier arrangements coming to. It's not clear whether the government still maintain that view, or whether there is of opinion in terms of time. Now, to that the County Council have been working to a very, very short timeline, which I do not feel is in anyone's interests. If the government's settled policy position is that the two-tier structures are to be phased out or come to an end, then we have to work within that reality. Along with other councillors in the county, are very clear, however, that any such process should be undertaken with due regard to the needs of different communities and the pressures within those different communities. And a one-size-fits-all does not necessarily work. And so I believe that this is an area that is going to be of increased focus over the next few weeks and months. We collectively, local government leaders, feel that now is not the right time, and that tackling COVID-19 and supporting the economy must be the priority. And I sincerely hope the government listens to these reasons, opinions. So apologies for the lengthy response, Chair, and I hope that everyone was able to hear clearly.
Right. Councillor Green, you still seem to be having a little bit problem where it's sticking and we're not quite hearing it, most of it. But I think we've heard enough to be able to ask if there's a supplementary question from Councillor Brand. Did you hear enough to offer a supplementary question, Councillor Brand?
Yes, I did, Chair, thank you. And I don't have a supplementary question. I think some of the discussion will follow in the ensuing motion. So I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brand. Right. Agenda item number 7 is motions. There is one motion. I call upon Councillor Simon Greaves to read the motion.
Thank you, Chair, and I hope that my broadband connection has improved a little, and apologies for the poor connection previously. Chair, the motion that is to be tabled this evening is drawn out of the decision by Nottinghamshire, sadly, to unilaterally pursue a bid for a single county unitary. This is a great shame, as there are far many more pressing matters at this time. Chair, what I would like to do at this point is to read the motion, if that is acceptable. There is a slight amendment, which is to be proposed and seconded also. But at this point, Chair, I think I'll read the motion. And I believe that there's a document that could be put on the screen if the technology supports that.
Chair, I can confirm that I will put the document on the screen now. That should now be being displayed.
Thank you, Chair. So what I will do is that I will formally read the motion, Chair, and I'll make reference to the additional words. And I'll, with your permission, turn to Councillor White. So this council notes that Nottinghamshire County Council once again intends to pursue its ambition of a single unitary authority for Nottinghamshire. The County Council has developed its proposals in isolation and have not yet engaged with district authorities on any alternative options, and has failed to demonstrate an open mind to any option other than the one that preserves and enhances its own identity and responsibilities. A single unitary council for Nottinghamshire would attempt to serve 828,000 people. This is way beyond the acceptable size threshold that has been articulated by a government. Only Birmingham City Council would represent more people. Nottinghamshire County Council is already a very large organisation, additional words being which is defined by the current administration as it struggles to react swiftly and responsively to local needs. Each area in Nottinghamshire has examples where economic growth and public service delivery are being frustrated and thwarted because the county council is too remote from the communities that it serves and too cumbersome to move quickly. A genuine commitment to levelling up the prosperity of our county and city also requires, at the very least, a consideration of options that include Nottingham City. This council rejects Nottinghamshire County Council's rush to beat a deadline to suspend the 2021 county elections. This is no basis on which to redesign the governance of local services. Our residents deserve so much better. And Chair, formally propose, with your permission, as amended by the writing of the additional words in red. Chair, I'll hand back to yourself, Chair, at that point.
Thank you, Councillor Greaves. I call upon Councillor J. White to second the motion.
Thank you, Chair. I formally second the motion, along with seconding the amendment, and reserve the right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments or observations?
Chair, I'd like to speak. Councillor Challoner.
Can you please use the indicator in the corner of your computer, please, on the right-hand side? I'll take Councillor Shaw, Susan Shaw first, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'm very positive about this motion, and thank you to Councillor Greaves and Councillor White. I think it's hugely disappointing that the Conservative-led County Council have the desire for this in complete isolation, with no consultation with any of the district councils, who are massively important for the residents of Nottinghamshire. I think the partnership work is crucial, and I think, as stated in the motion, we're seen as too far away to have any importance. I think an example that Councillor White said, and I hope she wasn't going to repeat this today, but was about the flooding is a really good example. When our residents were devastated by the flooding, the colleagues from the county couldn't even come down because they couldn't there was some snow or something in Nottingham, and they couldn't come to support our residents at all. Eventually they did come, but it was the time when it was absolutely crucial. And that's just one of many examples where we in the district, in partnership work with voluntary organisations and the council itself and colleagues, councillors, all got out to support residents. And that is just one example. And to be spending this money and time and resources on looking to do all the consultation and work when they should be spending the money in this unprecedented times for COVID. And even if it wasn't COVID, it's still not appropriate to take over looking after so many people. It just wouldn't happen. And this is anecdotal, just to finish on. When I worked for the county council for over 20 years, we were always quoted as the frozen north, always. And I'm sure that still is said in the corridors of power at County Hall in Nottinghamshire. And that just gives an example of Bassetlaw being so far distant. So I fully, whatever the word is, think it's very positive about the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Alan Rhodes.
Thanks very much, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this matter. I was at the Policy Committee on the 16th of September. I spoke and voted against the proposals at the time, as did the Labour group, but unfortunately we won the argument, lost the vote by 11 votes to 8. And I said at the time, and I still believe now, that it's the wrong issue to be discussing at the wrong time. It's never a good time to look at local government reorganisation, but it's certainly a bad time to look at it. And in the middle of a health pandemic, when people are scared for their health, scared about their jobs, scared about their kids' education, scared about their elderly relatives' care, scared for their own lives, to be talking about local government reorganisation, to have councillors talking about themselves and their future and what local government's going to look like when the deck chairs have been moved, is frankly offensive. I've seen the County Council's public consultation document that they're paying consultants £100,000 to deliver. It's outrageous. It's very, as you would imagine, very slanted towards unitary status, and it is quite scandalous in my view that public money is being spent in this way. But we shouldn't allow this self-serving distraction to take away from what we should be doing as councils, working together to keep our communities safe. In this past few months, very, very difficult months, I think local government has really excelled. And one of the ways we've excelled is by finding ways of working together on behalf of our communities. And I told Councillor Cook, so if I was leader of the county council, I would spend all my working hours, all my energy, all our resources in keeping people safe, because that's what matters. If they think people are really interested in local government reorganisation at this time, frankly, it just shows how out of touch they are. People don't care about it, and they shouldn't be expected to care about it at this time. There may be a time to look at local government reorganisation at some point. I don't know, but this is entirely not the right time. What this has actually done is create division among local government organisations in our county. The leader of the county council has managed to alienate every other leader in Nottinghamshire. She's got a special talent for that. She did it last time. She tried to do this, and here we are again. And I think history will repeat itself, because my personal view is this will fail. I hope I'm right. But what matters in the end, to me, is local decision making, local representation, local accountability. They're all crucial to people. People might not like what we do as councillors. They might not like us, but they know where we live. They know who we are. They know that every now and then we'll knock on their door, or we'll walk up their street, or we'll go to their paper shop, or whatever, and they can nobble us. They can bend our ear. They can tell us exactly what we think. My constituents do that with me all the time, and I welcome that. That's how it should be. But to have decisions made for the people of this district 40 miles away in West Bridgeford is a nonsense. And I will fight tooth and nail against that. But in the end, you know, this will be out of our hands, and it's in the hands of the government who have started this conversation, quite wrongly in my opinion, and only they will be able to finish it. It may be that Bassetlaw has to find a strategy going forward to address this particular matter. But my hope is that government see sense, do the right thing, and withdraw from local government reorganisation. And by virtue of that, Councillor Cutts' vanity project falls by the wayside. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Robin Carrington-Wild.
Good evening, Chair, and thank you. I have never been prouder of the people of Carlton and Lindrick, never been prouder to be their representative, never been prouder to work alongside such dedicated colleagues, and never prouder on all those who work for this authority than I have been over the last 6 months. It is impossible to name all those who have risen to the challenge of maintaining our services and supporting our communities, but I will say that the people of Bassetlaw have never felt so close to their council nor needed it more than they do now. For the County Council to bring forward this proposal in the middle of a deepening national crisis shows the K-Cuts administration to be underhand, dishonourable and beneath contempt. Any councillor who supports the Cuts proposal should hang their head in shame. Unsurprisingly, I will be supporting the motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hazel Brand.
Thank you, Chair. We as councillors know how effective and efficient Bassetlaw District Council is. Councillor Shaw has made reference to the floods. We've had references to the response to the COVID crisis. And at a very practical level, this council managed to keep the bin service going when other councils didn't and couldn't. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. We need to shout our achievements from the rooftops. And I implore that all Bassetlaw District Council's customer-facing services really continue their excellent work and step up to the mark. And I have to agree with Councillor Carrington-Wild. I believe that this is a cynical use at this particular time of great national concern, when people are focused on their lives and their livelihoods. And introducing this topic now, as I said, is a cynical use. I hope that the outcome of the motion will be shared with districts and the city, and that ultimately it will make its way to government. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kevin Greaves.
Thank you, Chair. I rise in full support of this motion. We see once again the true priorities of Councillor Cutts and her Conservative coalition group. It's not about saving money at all. On the contrary, it will cost the residents of Bassetlaw dearly, and the residents will be expected to pick up the bill long after Councillor Cutts has rode out of town. No, it's about Councillor Cutts and her problem she has with her vanity. Chairman, it was rumoured that she practically had to threaten her councillors with broken legs and arms if they didn't fall in line, and many of them didn't. They just chose to abstain, so she got it through anyway. Chairman, here we are fighting one of the worst pandemics this country has ever known in living memory. The biggest threat to life since Second World War, with death rates in this country one of the highest, if not the highest, in Europe, with a looming recession to our economy and people living in fear of their jobs and their livelihoods. Chairman, this is all about Councillor Cutts and her clinging to power with her ramshackle coalition and trying to hoodwink the residents of Nottinghamshire out of county council elections. That will call her to task. The last time she cut the vital services to the most needy in our society to the bone and left Nottinghamshire with 150 million black hole. Predictions are this time she will dwarf that. So, Chairman, I fully support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Gary Clarkson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to start off, first of all, by, in a way, speaking against part of the motion, because the motion says that there are examples where the county can't cope with local situations, local issues. My partner, who retires next week after 30 years with Notts County Council, I've seen her working 16 hours a day through the COVID crisis. She's now on a well-earned holiday before she retires. I've seen firsthand the professionalism of officers in Notts County Council and also in Bassetlaw. And I've seen examples in all the other councils in Nottinghamshire. I've witnessed meetings where things have changed minute by minute. So in that sense, the county in the adult social care and health side of it, and I'm not plugging somebody or anything, but I'm saying there are examples where a £260 million budget and all the staff that are highly professional and experts in their field can do an amazing job in dealing with local issues, but on a county-wide scale. However, Bassetlaw District Council, all of the other council in Nottinghamshire, they have a very special place. They are local. They are not the dark north. And I've heard over the last 9 months or so, and even the last 10 or 11 years, I've heard the frozen north quoted so many times. Where is Bassetlaw? Is that in Yorkshire? I've heard that kind of thing go over and over and over again. Now, just one issue that we deal with as a council, and the county deal with it as well, planning. I would hate to think that planning is dealt with in Nottingham, in a room in Nottingham, local issues, where at the moment in time we've got local councillors living in local communities, making decisions for those communities, yes, using all the legislation and taking account of all of that. But no way can I see that in future, if we lose what we have now, and I'm not saying what we've got now is absolutely perfect, there are changes that can be made to all systems, but if that was brought in, our localities would be changed drastically. The rights of our local communities would be changed drastically. Just today, I've dealt with 2 potential homeless situations. I can't see that happening as well as and council officers dealing with it so quickly and dealing with it so well if it was dealt with from Nottingham. So I'm against it for those reasons. I also think it's a cynical move. It's a power grab. Yes, we have local MPs. I don't want to get party political, but they're working as a team. They're working as a group alongside Mrs. Cutts. in order to try and give her the power across Nottinghamshire. And I think it's a cynical move at this time when so many people are in danger. We're going into but at the moment, we're in a black hole. We don't know where we're going with this COVID crisis. And it is a crisis because the government are taking us back in to the measures that we've been in over the last months. So it's absolutely the wrong time to look at changing and adapting, even improving local democracy and local the local authorities that we have. Let's get on with what we're doing, dealing with supporting local people in the right kind of way, in a local situation. Leave everything else behind for now. We've got to get through this situation first. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor David Pidwell.
Thank you, Chair. I support this motion and I'm in broad agreement with what's been said by other speakers. I'd like to spend my 3 minutes or so focusing on what would happen to local government at the parish and town council level, which so far hasn't featured in the proposals from the county council. Let's have a look at what happened in Cornwall. Cornwall was one of the first counties to go unitary 4 or 5 years ago. And within council, there's a town called Penzance, about the same size as Retford, half the size of Worksop. It has a town council, but not a town council that we would recognise. It has 20 councillors. It has 22 staff. In fact, it's increasing staff, must be one of the few councils in the country that can. It has 4 committees in addition to the main council that meets every 8 weeks. It's responsible for all the toilets, the swimming pool, the cleansing of minor roads, parks and open spaces, allotments, the CCTV programme, the car park, the youth service, the museum. And if the county unitary wanted its way, it would have been responsible for the library, but that was fended off this year. It has a representation on a variety of outside agencies, the BID, the Twinning Association, the Safer Communities team and others. It's almost a district council in miniature, is it not? Now, as I read about Penzance, it reminded me very much of Worksop. Worksop has a swimming pool, it has a museum, it has parks and open spaces, a rather good one. It has a very large public square. Penzance has its promenade. Penzance had to pay £60,000 last year to maintain its promenade. And of course, Retford has a library. I asked the question, does Retford face the possibility, under Mrs. Cutt's unitary proposals, of having to establish a town council of this size? Robert Jenrick thinks so. He's quoted as saying that unitary councils help to empower parish council to better provide for their communities. That may or may not be the case. But members, there is an enormous cost to pay, and there would be an enormous cost to Retford residents to pay if they wanted to provide ongoing services come Nottinghamshire Unitary Council. Last year, the precept for Retford was set at £1.43. The precept in Penzance for a Band D property is not set at £1.43, nor £10.43, not even £101.43. For a Band D property in Penzance this year, the precept is £200. That costs more than what Retford residents currently pay to maintain Bassetlaw District Council, which comes in at £178 to them. Anyone who supports these proposals to go unitary need to be honest with their electorate as to the true cost of Nottinghamshire going unitary. I fully support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Neil Sanders.
Thank you, Chair. I wish to speak in support of the motion. I note that Notts County Council is currently in no overall control, and I couldn't find a better way to describe the way both the national government and the current Tory-led county council are handling things. There is no control or consultation. It is significant, Chair, that every district or borough council in Nottinghamshire has come out against the proposals of Councillor Cutts. Add to that the fact that Notts City Council is against the proposals as well, and it leaves Tory county councillors out on a limb all on their own. What is also reprehensible is that they choose to bring this issue forwards at a time when COVID-19 cases are increasing rapidly. Many people have lost their jobs, and the government has just increased lockdown measures, potentially for 6 months. It has been reported that Councillor Cutts hopes to save £27 million. Is that to fund the £26 million reported to have been set aside to refurbish county council offices, whilst at the same time the current county administration runs down both adult social care and Sure Start centres? The failure, Chair, is with the Tory-led county administration and with 10 years of Tory austerity, not with district or borough councils. And I urge members to support this motion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Ellen Tamlin-Saville.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Greaves and Councillor White, for bringing this motion this evening. It's something that we should all be interested in. We should all have an opinion on it because it affects every single resident in Bassetlaw. I found it interesting that yesterday it was announced that the autumn budget was to be scrapped, and I quote, "As we heard this week, now is not the right time to outline long-term plans. People want to see us focused on the here and the now." That was a reason given by the Treasury. So if something like the autumn budget can be scrapped due to it not being the right time, then why are plans to reorganise local government being rushed through? I am opposed to the manner in which this is happening. This is a time that we should be focusing on recovery and supporting people and not wasting money on a rushed reorganisation, which could well be detrimental to the people it's supposed to serve. As already mentioned, Bassettlaw's response to COVID showed the strength of a district council. So many people were signposted and supported with practical support through the council and through partner agencies. As Councillor Brand mentioned, other day-to-day services such as refuse collection continued throughout the pandemic. A rushed reorganisation risks local decision making, and it doesn't necessarily mean that services are going to be improved. If a move to a unitary authority is pursued, then it should also be with proper consultation, and by that I don't just mean an online survey that is skewed in favour of the county council's view. Consultation events should be accessible to everybody, and if that means waiting due to the ongoing situation of the pandemic, then so be it. District authorities should also be consulted on this. A Nottinghamshire Super Council would serve over 800,000 people. That's over 750,000, and there is no guarantee that this would save money or improve efficiency. It also risks local decision making, and I feel really strongly that this is something that shouldn't be rushed. And whatever anyone's personal view on a unitary council, I think most people should recognise that this is not something that should be rushed through in the middle of a pandemic. It shouldn't be rushed through before the county elections next year. It's irresponsible, it's untimely, and priorities should be absolutely focused elsewhere, and that should be on recovery, not a reorganisation. I will be supporting the motion tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor David Challoner. Sorry for your wait, Councillor Challoner.
No problem. Thank you, Chair. Well, this unitary authority thing, we had a battle on his hands just over 2 years ago when it raised its ugly head the first time then. I think it's a person's own ideology who wants to leave a legacy to be remembered by, just like she's got a portrait of a hero on her office wall. And we all know what that lady left as a legacy for the country. But the top and bottom of it is this council, this district council, over the last 9 years has worked its socks off as a Labour administration to encourage people to invest in Bassetlaw, businesses to come here. We have worked alongside different companies for them to bring prosperity. We've had housing development, which people who come working with these businesses are now settling in Bassetlaw, and they can see that they're getting a good deal from this district council. And all this has been done under 10 years of austerity. We are now in a position where, yeah, we're in the biggest pandemic that the world has ever seen. And once again, Bassetlaw has stood head and shoulders above others to go out and help the people in their communities. And that is something we really, really should be proud of. But this seems to me to be a bit of a snatch and grab by Kay Cutts and a so-called team down at Nottinghamshire, who are so out of touch with the people up here, and even the people in her own ward of Rushcliffe, because even they're against it when you read the paperwork that comes through. But there's only one thing: if she wants to do this smash and grab or rob all the stuff from Bassetlaw, all the hard work that this Labour administration has done over the years, there's only one thing I can say is at least Dick Turpin wore a mask. Thank you, Chair, and I'll be supporting this motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sybil Fielding.
Thank you, Chair. I as well support this motion. It is an absolute travesty to actually be talking about looking to a unitary council at such a time as this. If ever we needed to be working together, county and the districts and boroughs and the city, when there's a pandemic on, we shouldn't be having this conversation, because it shouldn't be on the agenda at all. I absolutely agree with what has been said before. This is Kay Cutts' vanity project of an ideology that she's always held, and she's taken an opportunity at a time when we should be looking to how we serve the people, and it's absolutely abhorrent the amount of money that's been spent on this, when we should be focusing on the safety and serving the people of the county. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Josie Potts.
Sorry, I'd got my mic muted because of the parrot. This is going to be hard for me, very hard, because it's breaking my heart thinking about not being a councillor again to support the people in Manton, which has been a deprived area. It has risen out of ashes. I'm not saying it's all down to me, but I have worked damned hard, and for them to go backwards again in Manton really, really kills me. And I just think the woman's got no compassion. Where will these people go when they want repairs? We've got the highest social housing in Bassetlaw, and there isn't a day goes by without I don't get a phone call from someone in this ward with an issue. I don't care what issue it is. If I can advise them and help them, I do it. But where they're going to get this from what I put into it with them. And I fully support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Jack Bowker.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I think most of what I'm thinking here has already been said. Obviously, I'd like to highlight the points that I think that's more fitting than any other. I'm pretty convinced it's a political move, without going into too much politics. I think it speaks volumes the fact that 6 other district councils are opposed to this, and that's from across the political spectrum, as well as the City Council. Surely that should speak volumes to Councillor Cutts, that even some of her colleagues are opposed to this proposal she's put forward. As has already been said, us in the north of the county, so in Bassetlaw, we seem to be forgotten about by West Bridgeford. More so now Councillor Cutts is leading the council. mean, Nottingham's 40 miles away. What really do people in West Bridgeford have in common with people in Bassetlaw? I mean, a prime example being me personally. I relate myself to Sheffield, a city 15 miles away across the border. I mean, from where I live in Carlton, you just have to go a mile up the road. You're in Rotherham. You're in South Yorkshire. So for me, more so it is my ward as well. We border South Yorkshire, so I think geographically it would not benefit Bassetlaw in the slightest, as well as every other point that's already been raised. But yeah, it's definitely a smash and grab, and it's just a search for power by Councillor Cutts, and I think it's quite shocking, really, at this such a time of crisis and a time of need, where the district councils have been relied on so much, and the work that our officers have put into this, as well as the county officers, of course, everybody's worked hard, but it just seems to be a bit of a kick in the ribs, really, and after we've worked so tirelessly. So I fully support the motion, and I hope it's carried. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor David Presley.
Oh, thank you, Chairman. First of all, I'd like to start with saying that we need the elections next year for the County Council so that we can return Alan Rose and his team. When they were in power, we weren't the forgotten North. We were looked after by a Labour-run authority. And that's the difference between running Labour and running Tory. Now, Tories are not bothered about us. All they're bothered about is the power, as people have said. I'm thinking of my own ward, like Shire Oaks and Rhodesia, very small villages, old mining villages, which have been forgotten for a long time. We've been charging to get it right for a long time with my fellow councillors, and I think that the part of this that is going to be wrong is we're both parish councillors, myself and Civil, but like David Pidwell said, who's going to run them? You know, you never ever have any elections either on a parish council. There's not many elections on a parish council. They're normally elected and that's it. What I'm saying is that we need a Bassetlaw District Council that looks after all these parish councillors. There's 45 of them in Bassetlaw. Don't forget that, 45 parish councillors, and we look after them. They look after us. And we need a Bassetlaw District Council with a not council Labour-run authority. And that's why I'm very upset of trying to cancel the elections next year when they know they're going to lose. And we'll have Alan Rose and his team back in as a Labour-run authority. That's what we are about. We are a Labour-run authority here, and we've kept this authority ticking over all the time. Like David said, while the government has been cutting and cutting and cutting our money. And while we've helped with the COVID-19, we have done really, really well. You can go around to anybody in Bassetlaw who knows that we've done really, really well with our food parcels. Tony Eaton's one of them that's working on that all the time. We've got foods, can't get out, food parcels, shopping. The things we've done for the people are really, really great. And I, like Josie Potts says, well, I get a phone today, but people are help. They really are ringing us for their help, and they know they've got it. We are the councillors, and we help. Let's keep it like that. I'm not going to mention the leader of the Tory county, in Nottinghamshire, because I don't think that matters. It's whether we want as a district council, and it doesn't matter who's, you know, who's the leader of the county council. It's what we want for our people in this area. And I'll support this motion. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor James Naish.
Thank you, Chairman. David has actually just touched upon the point that I was going to make, really, which is, for me, the COVID has exposed a couple of things. One of those is the strength of having a district structure, but it's also the fact that we have parish councils. Now, those parish councils in my ward were extremely important during the pandemic, but they are very short on numbers. So I have got 3 parish councils in my area, and there's not one of them at the moment that has full capacity. And for me, it's a real issue practically here that also needs factoring in, because a lot of my parish councils, the members were shielding during the pandemic because they do it voluntarily. They're often slightly older, and coming from a rural ward, I really worry about the reality and the practicalities of actually devolving the district councils. I don't think they want more responsibility. I don't think they've been asked, but I don't think they want more responsibility. And so I therefore think, on a practical basis, I will be supporting this motion because I can't see it working with the current construct. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kevin Dukes.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to make the same points that have just been made by the last 2 councillors. I think it is a very struggling situation. We're in a very strange situation within parish councils in Bassetlaw. Bassetlaw has a very strong grasp of what is happening within the parishes. Has done an awful lot of work through its services to support those parish councils by creating parish forums to enable them to come together and develop their ideas. But we are finding that parish councillors are struggling to actually meet at the moment. And if you take that devolution a little bit further, we'll have a number of motions, a number of neighbourhood plan requests and policies to go through later on in this meeting. And getting those groups to actually sit together during this present time is very, very difficult. You know, I've been doing an awful lot of work within my ward to try and make sure that those meetings have taken place, to make sure that the funding is in place for them to do it. It's very difficult for those individuals to do it without the knowledge that I have as a district councillor, without the support of Bassetlaw District Council and the neighbourhood planning team. All of that needs to be thought about. It needs to be discussed. It needs to go into the melting pot. And none of that is happening with this very short timeline that we're seeing in the current proposals. If we are going to have some form of devolution that is filtered down to a parish council type level, town council type level, that needs to be thought about carefully and cannot be done in a 3-month period while most of those people are in lockdown. It is not practical to go forward at this stage, and I massively support this motion for that reason. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Now call upon Joe White. Do you wish to use your right to speak?
Yes, thank you very much. This week, our national government imposed new restrictions on us, our businesses and our communities. Such governance is intrusive and overbearing, but it is something that we accept in these current and difficult times. At a local level, we have a leader who has used the current environment to impose her will on us and our communities. Again, such governance is intrusive and overbearing. But in sharp contrast, this time we do not accept that her condescending paternalism is right for Bassetlaw. Her dismissal of the value of local services delivered at a local level is condescending, arrogant, and reflects her remoteness from areas like ours. It is unusual to attack one person when fighting against proposals for unitarisation. But sadly, in Nottinghamshire, we are facing a situation where this top-down approach is creating huge rifts in how services are delivered, where the priorities are, and who is consulted, listened to, and respected. This is not the first fight that we have had in Bassetlaw to define our future. We have fought and won for health services to be locally managed and based here, and we are ready for this new fight. The recent floods and the pandemic highlighted why it is so important to have services close to the ground. In November, as Councillor Shaw has already highlighted, it was Bassetlaw District Council officers and staff who are out on the streets working hard to help people as their homes went underwater, whilst the county vehicles and staff got caught up in the floods and Bassetlaw could not be reached. The lockdown changed the way this council operated overnight, and its close connectivity with our communities meant that the vulnerable and the shielders quickly got the support and services they needed. There are many other examples of why a local connection is essential for Bassetlaw. Our economy relies on it. Our provision of services needs it, and our visioning and planning for the future has a fundamental requirement for a micro understanding of needs, priorities, and interventions. We are ambitious for Bassetlaw, and this will be lost, confused, and ignored if we are having to compete with a much larger organisation run from the city. We are an edge piece in a complex jigsaw, and our geographical distance from the centre will be an unresolvable problem for us. I want to use this opportunity to give praise and thanks for the unity and fast response from the other Nottinghamshire district authorities. Our unity of purpose and action is absolutely essential as we go forward. And I ask members to support this motion tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor White. I now call upon Councillor Simon Greaves to sum up, please.
Well, thank you, Chair, and thank you to everyone that has contributed in the course of this debate. It is very sad indeed that when the country was moving into lockdown and dealing with the realities of this pandemic, the County Council in the background, out of view, was working on its plan to abolish every other authority and to reassert itself as a unitary county council. The contributions that have been made this evening in the context of Nottinghamshire and Bassetlaw have also been played out in other parts of the country by other local representatives of all political persuasion. Because what is becoming very, very clear indeed is that this, by a number of councils, county councils, is being rejected up and down the country. Most also, and perhaps most difficult for the government to deal with, it is Conservative councils that are also at the forefront of rejecting. And what we would see if these would see
Sorry,
have your say.
Sorry, Councillor Greaves, to stop you again, but you've gone a little bit like Norman Collier again. We can't get what you're saying, I'm afraid. Could you re-establish your connection? Thank you.
Chair, I'm hoping that helps.
Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Sadly, the realistic consequences of the county's moves, if agreed, would mean that democracy moved from local people next May. See the disestablishment of local services that people relied upon so much, especially during the recent crisis and the ongoing crisis. You would see the consequences of stripping away district services and thrusting upon parish and town councils responsibilities that they probably never even expected to have to deal with, and the tax bombshell that follows from financially having to support those services, as pointed out by Councillor Pidwell. Those essentially amount to a commissioning unitary authority, and that its own consequence as well, because you would see the stripping out of locally delivered public services and the introduction of the private sector and experiments with the introduction of the private sector in other parts of the country. So this is an issue that needs to be, I say, dealt with at a different time, in a different way, and quite frankly, the county council corporately have chosen to embark almost on a kamikaze mission. I sincerely hope that government will see sense and push back the county council. Perhaps recommend that it should engage better with districts and boroughs in Nottinghamshire to look at proposals and options, because the alternative, a one-size-fits-all, do as we say, not as we do, is not the way forwards. The priority must be COVID-19. And I'll say a couple of additional points. The amount of been taking place across the district, the investment in local council housing, the improvements in our local communities, at by the county council unilateral and imperialist stance. So, Chair, I thank everyone for their contribution. The important matters to be dealt with are COVID-19 and supporting vulnerable people and business. The county council's ambitions, I say, can wait for another time. Have more patience. Chair, thank you to everyone that has contributed in the course of this debate. And what I would also ask that I don't know how this is done virtually, but I would ask if colleagues could indicate support for a recorded vote on this item.
Right, so what we will do is we will call your name individually, and if you can say whether you agree or abstain or disagree when your name is called, please.
So starting alphabetically then, Chair, please indicate for the motion, against the motion, or if you're abstaining. Councillor Anderson. For. Councillor Bowker. For. Councillor Carrington-Wild.
For.
Chair, can you hear us?
No.
No, just confirm that there is a problem at this end, that the connectivity has been lost. So if you just bear with us for a minute, we'll sort that out and get back to you.
Golden bridges.
Can everybody hear me now? Okay, I propose to go back to the start then, please. I'm sorry for that. So please indicate you're voting for the motion, against, or abstaining. I'm going to say answer.
For.
Thank you, Councillor Croker.
For.
Councillor Brand.
For.
Councillor Carrington Wild.
For.
Councillor Challoner.
For.
Councillor Jolson.
For.
Councillor Clarkson.
For.
Councillor Colte.
Abstain.
Shame.
Councillor Dukes.
For.
Councillor Hazel.
For.
Councillor Eaton.
For.
Councillor Evans.
For.
Councillor Fielding.
For.
Kevin Greaves.
For.
Councillor Simon Greaves.
For.
Councillor Lee.
For.
Councillor Nish.
For.
Councillor Oxby.
For.
Councillor Pidwell.
For.
Councillor Flevin.
For.
Councillor Pock.
For.
Councillor Presley.
For.
Councillor Quigley. Councillor Quigley.
Abstain.
Shame.
Councillor Rhodes. Councillor Quigley.
Abstain. Shame.
Councillor Rhodes.
For.
Councillor Richardson.
For.
Councillor Sanders.
For.
Councillor Stanger.
For.
Councillor Schuler.
For.
Hey there, John.
Councillor Shaw.
Oh, hey,
For.
John.
Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Shepherd.
For.
Councillor Softler.
What eating on? What eating on? Yeah. Have you finished? Yeah.
Councillor Presley, can you please mute your mic? We don't wish to hear what you need your eating on. Thank you.
Councillor Softler.
For. Can you hear me?
Saville. Yes. Councillor Tamlin Saville.
For.
Councillor Tyndall.
For.
Councillor Troop.
For.
Councillor Watson.
For.
Councillor White.
For.
And Councillor Burth, 4. You missed me out.
For. Yes, me as well. We've missed another one out.
Who was that?
What name? Sorry, of which councillor has been missed?
Rob Burth, Independent, 4.
For. Thank you. Anybody else that hasn't been called to vote? Thank you very much. Just bear with us.
So that's 36 for the motion, Chair, with two abstentions. Thank you.
That's carried. Thank you. Right, we now move on to agenda item number 8 is referrals. There is one referral from Overview and Scrutiny Committee from the 21st of July 2020, minute number 144A, Overview and Scrutiny Annual Report, pages 11 to 28. Are there any comments or observations on this referral I believe that Councillor John Shepherd would like to speak.
Thank you, Chair. I commend the scrutiny annual report to the Council and want to record my thanks to the excellent officer team, ably led by Steve Brown, for their support, and to all members of the committee who have worked hard to carry out effective scrutiny under these extraordinary circumstances. Members and officers have made this possible through careful preparation for the virtual meetings and being focused and disciplined. In the next few months, the committee is focused on three main themes for scrutiny. Firstly, following up on the cycling scrutiny review, which reported in January, and we'll follow up on those recommendations. Given what's happened in lockdown with the increase in cycling and the government announcements on funding, there's an opportunity here to make transformational change, and we want to make sure that Basildon doesn't miss out. Secondly, in October, we're going to start the flooding scrutiny review, which has been delayed, obviously by the COVID, and we had to wait for the county report, and members were anxious to make a start on that before the anniversary of the November floods in Worksop. Thirdly, in February, in the annual scrutiny of the Community Safety Partnership, we are going to focus on the COVID impact on young people, particularly from the safeguarding perspective. Also, next meeting in October, we have the annual scrutiny of the BPL leisure contract, and COVID will obviously feature prominently in that as well. Scrutiny will have a crucial role in the recovery phase from this terrible crisis, learning from the positives, such as use of technology, the importance of localism, partnerships, and the use of volunteers, and building back better to create a healthier and more sustainable Basildon. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shepherd. I have no other request to speak. In that case, no other members have indicated, so the recommendations are set out on page 11. Does anyone wish to vote against these? Right, that's carried. Agenda item number 9, reports of the Interim Director of Corporate Resources. Agenda item 9A, Annual Treasury Report, pages 29 to 55. Are there any comments or observations on this report? As no members have indicated that they wish to speak, the recommendations are set out on page 30. Does anyone wish to vote against the recommendations? That's carried. Agenda item number 10 is reports of the Director of Regeneration and Neighbourhoods. Agenda item 10A, Neighbourhood Planning, request to designate a neighbourhood area, Babworth Parish, pages 57 to 74. Are there any comments or observations on this report? Councillor Jo White.
Thank you. I'd just like to take this opportunity to give credit and recognition to the people of Babworth and of Nether Langworth, which is coming up in the next item on the agenda, because the work that this entails requires attending many meetings. It requires the gaining and understanding of national planning policy legislation. And also it means they have to do a lot of work in order to communicate and consult with local residents. It's a hard slog, taking usually about 2 years. And I think we need to recognise that to achieve a neighbourhood plan in a local area demands commitment and energy and a vision to in order to get where they want to be. But having a neighbourhood plan makes such a difference to local communities. It means that they can determine their local housing numbers, where they'd like to have housing, and the type of housing that they'd like to have. It also means they can have an interest in future employment within the area, and it actually enables them to create a vision for the future of their areas. We have 15 so far made in Bassetlaw, and we have more in the pipeline, and they have made a significant difference within Bassetlaw, and we are one of the most, we have one of the highest numbers across the country, which just shows how much people support them in this area.
Thank you very much, Councillor White. As there is no other indications to speak, the recommendation is set out on page 59. Does anyone wish to vote against this? That's carried. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 10B, neighbourhood planning request to designate a neighbourhood area Nether Langwith parish, pages 75 to 92. Are there any comments or observations on this report? Councillor Kevin Jukes.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, as you would expect, this is neighbourhood planning, and I will have a comment to make. I also would like to congratulate the parish of Nether Langwith in their first step on the road to neighbourhood planning. They are very aware of the long, hard road they have ahead of them, but they have parishes around them that have gone through the process, who are going through the review process at the moment, and are willing to support them. And I think that's one of the great strengths of Bassetlaw's neighbourhood planning across the board, is that other neighbourhood planning areas, other neighbourhood planning groups are more than happy to help each other and look at best ways forward for each other. This was seen really in strength during the consultation for the local plan, where the neighbourhood plan groups got together and really discussed things like housing needs and had a real input into the way that the local plan is being developed. And hopefully those notifications will be noted in the upcoming consultation that we will see in that. I think this is a real example of localism and groups getting together, and is something that I think Nottinghamshire County Council should look at quite carefully, of how a relatively small district council can bring together a set of communities by supporting them in their wish to create neighbourhood plans. Bassetlaw leads the way in this. I sit on the Rural Services Network meetings, and when I see the people all over the country amazed at how many local neighbourhood plans are being put together in Bassetlaw every time we have a meeting, I think it bears absolute fruit for the team at Bassetlaw and the hard work that they put together to make sure that these plans get put forward. And I would just like to commend one person who turns up at all of these meetings, and I will see him on Monday afternoon at my Norton and Cuckney Parish neighbourhood plan meeting, and that's Will Wilson from the neighbourhood planning team. He does an absolutely fantastic job and should be given as much credit as possible for the way that Bassetlaw runs its neighbourhood planning systems. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. As there is no more request to speak, the recommendation is set out at page 77. Does anybody wish to vote against this? That's carried. Agenda item 10C, modifications to and arrangements for a referendum relating to the Rampton and Woodbeck neighbourhood plan. pages 93 to 144. Are there any comments or observations on this report? As no one has indicated that they wish to speak, the recommendation is set out at page 97. Does anyone wish to vote against this? That's carried. Thank you. Agenda item number 10D, modifications to and arrangements for a referendum related to Oddsock and Mangold Neighbourhood Plan, pages 145 to 192. Are there any comments or observations on this report? As nobody has indicated that they wish to speak on behalf of this, the recommendation is set out at page 149. Does anybody wish to vote against this? That's carried. Agenda item number 11 is section B, items for discussion in private. The live stream will shortly be stopped as we move to the confidential items. I would like to thank everyone who has been watching the live stream meeting. Can any officers who have declared a disclosable pecuniary interest please indicate when they are leaving the meeting?
Chair, I can confirm that Steve Wormold has indicated he is leaving.
Thank you. Just bear with us while we end the live stream. Thank you.
Thank you, Robbie. We can now end.